Welcome back to the next part of our lecture today on the SEM. And in this part, we will talk about the interactions in the SEM. We will discuss what we do if we have single interactions in some submodels in the SEM, and we will also learn how to do the model-wide interactions, which is called multi-group analysis in the SEM. So let's first talk about single interactions. For this, we will use our example, which you know already, which is data Kelly from our piecewise CM package. As you remember from our previous exercises, from Lavan, we got these results, and we know that the age affects cover, but not directly, but through the fire severity. And let's say that now we want to test not only additive effects of age and fire severity on cover, but also their interactions. And let's specify this in our piecewise CM. So you know that in order to specify interactions, we use the multiplier, we use the star between our variables which we want to test as interaction. So this is what I have done here. But when you plot this piecewise CM, you will get such figure where the interaction between age and fire severity is added as an additional variable. But in reality, what we want to show on our path diagram would be something like that we have interaction effects. So the plot function is not very suitable in order to plot the interactions. So with this interaction, what we want to know, whether the effect of fire severity on plant cover depends on plant age. And the first thing what you will notice if we call the Fisher C and the chi-square statistic that they are zero because this is saturated model and we don't have the degrees of freedom here. But what we want to focus here are our path coefficients. And you can see here that the interactive effects of age and fire severity on cover is not statistically significant. But what we see here that we lost the effect of fire severity on cover, which was strongly significant from our previous results. And if we check the correlation between our age variable and the interaction of age and fire severity, we will have a high collinearity, high correlation among them. In order to get rid of this correlation, we have to center our data. And the centering will help to remove the collinearity. And centering is simply subtracting a mean value from every value of a variable. So what it does, it redefines the 0 point for this predictor to be at its mean that we subtract. So it will shift the scale over, but it will retain the units. To recenter data, we can use function scale here to our variables which we want to recenter. And if you don't want to rescale data for standard deviation, for instance, then we use argument scale equal false. So I want to recenter variables age and fire severity in order to get rid of the collinearity between them, high correlation between them and interaction. But I keep our cover variable the same. When we check then the correlation between our variable age and the interaction between age and fire severity, which are centered here, then you can see that we get rid of the singularity, the collinearity between our variables. And now I refit our model using the centered variables, and now we get results which we would expect from our regression analysis. And you can see that the effect of fire severity on cover now is preserved. So this is the procedure that we have to do when we do the structural equation modeling with interactions. The same should be done in Lavan if you want to study single interactions in Lavan. But in Lavan, we have to include not only interaction using the multiplier sign, using the star, but we have to put each link separately. So we have to say fire severity plus age plus the interaction. Otherwise, Lavaan will not understand the functions. And the same idea behind it, that if we get the summary function, our coefficients will show the same results as the piecewise CM, whereas the effect of fire severity on cover will be lost. But if we re-specify our model in Lavaan using the centered variables, you will see that the effect of fire severity on age now is significant, and the same as we got from our piecewise CM, which is shown by our path diagram here. And here on the slide, I would like to show you the idea behind using uncentered versus centered variables in the CM in case if we have the interactions among these variables. So if we use the uncentered data, then we have high collinearity between the interaction and between the variables that have this interaction. And then the additive path from, let's say, from fire severity to cover, in case if we have interaction, it would be estimated in the absence of other variable with which it interact. So we would say that the effect of fire severity on cover in this model would be estimated when h is 0. And this is not what we want. We want to estimate effect of fire severity on cover at the average value of H. And this is what we do when we center data. So from these results, we can say that the fire severity has no effect on cover when H equals 0, but it has an effect on cover at the mean level of H. And now when we look on our results in general on the effect of interaction between H and fire severity on cover, we can say that this effect of fire severity on plant cover does not differ with plant H. So fire severity is expected to have the same magnitude of effect regardless of what is the age of the plant. The next part is on the multi-group analysis, or the analysis of model-wide interactions. So what we do in the multi-group model is that instead of focusing on a single response variable, the interaction is applied across the entire CM model. So it asks if not just one, but all coefficients are the same or different across groups. And it identifies which paths have the same effect across groups and which paths vary depending on the group. So if we see here our model, effect of X on Y on Z, we test all these effects across these two groups. And you may ask, why not simply feed the same model structure to different subsets of our data, let's say for group A and for group B? Unfortunately, this would not allow us to identify which paths change based on the group and which do not change. But this is a key insight which we look from the multi-group analysis here. The multi-group analysis is possible in covariance-based CM as well, but it's like manually harder process. So we have to do steps of manual adaptation when we do this in Lavaan. While in the piecewise CM, this all is more automatically done. So let's consider an example using our data, CM data 2 CSV file on Blackboard, and we would feed the separate submodels for this model. And this is how they would look like, that Y affected by X and the group which interact. As the same second submodel would be the Z affected by Y and group which also interact. And here you can see the result that the interaction of X and group is significant and the interaction of Y and group is not significant. Then in regression, we would estimate the effect of Y on Z using the entire data set. We would remove the interaction and we would report that single constraint coefficient across all the groups. And this is exactly what is done automatically in the piecewise CM. Here is the script how we implement this multi-group analysis in the piecewise SEM. So we feed submodels, but we do not include the interaction here in our submodels. But then we use our fitted piecewise SEM model in a function multi-group. And we use our interaction variable, which is group, as an argument group here. And this will allow us to consider group as interaction across the entire data set. And the output here gives us the results for our groups, which are our groups, our Fisher-C statistics, and also it gives us model-wide interactions. So the interactions for Y, for the effect of group and X as interaction, and for the interactive effects of Y and group. And we see that this interaction is not significant, then piecewise SEM says you that the effect of Y on Z here is constrained to the global model. It means that the interaction is removed, not significant interaction is removed from the model. And next, the output is the coefficient tables for each group. So values that have been constrained are the same between two models and indicated with this C letter here. So you can see that they are totally the same across groups because they are constrained to the entire global data set, and the interaction for the Z variable was removed from the submodel. And the unconstrained passes from X to Y are different between groups because interactions are included in the submodels. Also, it's important to say that the standardized coefficients, they do differ for each group, even though the passes are constrained. So these estimates, raw estimates, are the same here for constraint, but the standardized estimates differ. And this is because the variances differ between groups when we standardize them. And now it's a time for the second task. So in this task, we will use data set which are published here in two publications, and they are implemented in the piecewise SEM called MIDOS. And the grouping variable is graced. So we have here 1 or 0, 0 not graced, 1 graced. And here is a hypothetical model which you need to test. So we have the effect of elevation on biomass, and then biomass on richness of species, of plant species, and also the direct effect of elevation on richness. And now we want to test the model-wide interactions of elevation and grazing and the biomass and grazing on richness. So we want to know whether the effects of elevation on richness and biomass on richness differ between grazed versus ungrazed plots. So your task is to perform the multi-group analysis for this hypothetical SEM model using the piecewise SEM package. Good luck with this and see you in the next lecture.